Oh, no, just-
She said yes. She was at the she did social work. She's I'm not like but she's still hospital. She's also
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Tuesday, October the 12th, City Council meeting. I now call this meeting to order. Our pledge of allegiance and invocation this afternoon will be given by Councilwoman Kumar. Please stand.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, ma'am. Special presentations this afternoon. We have a motion on the minutes, please. We have a motion on the minutes with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Kumar. Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilman Donovan. Councilman Rose.
yes.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
Say yes.
The ayes have it. Now moving into your order of business this afternoon, ordinances on final reading. We have none. Moving now to ordinances first reading. Madam Clerk, 6A, please.
An ordinance amending chapter City Code Chapter 2, Chapter 25, Section 25, 2, curfew for minors.
Councilwoman Kumar.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Donovan.
Yes.
Councilman Burr.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kumar. Vice Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
Say yes.
So moved. We now move into our planning items for this afternoon. Madam Clerk, would you read 6B, please?
An ordinance to amend chapter City Code Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1312 East 36th Street from L1 manufacturing zone to R2 residential zone.
Case number 2021-0140. Is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Dotley?
Second.
Got a motion on the floor to approve item 6B with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Byrd.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley. Councilwoman Burns.
Yes.
Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. Moving now to 6C.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone parts of the properties located in the 7,273 blocks of Bonnie Oaks Drive from R1 residential zone, R4 special zone with conditions, and C2 convenience commercial zone with conditions for all three.
Case 2021-0138, is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Burrs, I'm not seeing an applicant nor any opposition. We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilwoman Burns.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley. Councilman Byrd.
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod. Vice Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
8 yes.
So moved. Moving now to 6D, please.
In order to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to use on property located at 6701 South Road, R1 residential zone, A1 office zone, subject to certain conditions.
2021-0141, is the applicant present? Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Burrs, I'm seeing an applicant with no opposition.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Byrd.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley. Councilwoman Burrs.
Yes.
Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carries. 6D, please.
In order to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 2618, 2620 Carr Street from R3 residential zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Case 2021-0142, is the applicant present?
Yes.
Any opposition present? Councilwoman Dotley, I see an applicant, but no opposition.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilwoman Burns.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley. Councilman Byrd.
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod. Vice Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
8 yes.
So moved. 6F, please.
In order to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 2603 William Street from R3 residential zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Case 2021-0154, is the applicant present?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Dotley, I see an applicant with no opposition.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Further questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod. Councilman Byrd.
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley. Councilwoman Burns.
Yes.
Councilman Hester.
Yes.
Councilman Ledford.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith.
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion to approve carries. Moving now to 6G, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1621 Charlton Street from R2 residential zone and M2 light industrial zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Case 2021-0137, is the applicant present? Thank you. Is there any opposition present? Councilman Byrd, I'm seeing an applicant, but no opposition.
Also approved.
Have a motion on the floor to approve item 6G with a A proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
eight yes.
Motion does carry. 6H, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part Two, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance for resolution property located at 1024 East Main Street, M1 manufacturing zone, the UTC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Case 2021-0150 is the applicant present? Thank you. Is there any opposition to this case present? Councilman Byrd, I'm seeing an applicant, but no opposition, sir.
Vote to approve.
We have a motion on the floor to approve 6H with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley, Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
eight yes.
so moved. 6I, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part Two, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located in the 1000 block of East 16th Street and 1690 Page Street from M1 manufacturing zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Case number 2021-0151 is the applicant present? Thank you. Is there any opposition present? Councilman Byrd, I'm seeing an applicant with no opposition present.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley, Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
eight yes.
so moved. 6J, please.
In ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part Two, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1495 East 14th Street from R1 residential zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Case 2021-0152 is the applicant present? Thank you, sir. Is there any opposition to this case present? Councilman Byrd,
Move to approve. Second.
have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley, Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
eight yes.
motion to approve does carry. 6K, please.
In ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part Two, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1314 Duncan Avenue, R3 MD moderate density zone to UGC urban general commercial zone, subject to certain conditions.
Case 2021-0144 is the applicant present? Is there any opposition to this case present? Councilwoman Coonrod, I am not seeing an applicant nor any opposition. We have a motion on the floor to approve with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
eight yes.
so moved. Moving now to 6L, please.
Ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part Two, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 513 Dodge Avenue, from R2 residential zone to C2 convenience commercial zone.
Case number 2021-0157 is the applicant present? Thank you. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Coonrod, I am seeing an applicant, but no opposition.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve item 6L with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Dotley, Councilwoman Burrs,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
Say yes.
Motion to approve does carry. Moving now to 6M, please.
An ordinance amending chapter city code part two, chapter 38, article 6, height and over special exceptions, division 1, height and area exceptions, section 38, 5 and 2, lots of record, 3, single family dwellings, and section 38, 5 and 4, projections over water.
Councilman Ledford.
Move to approve, Chair. Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve item 6M with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Hester, Councilwoman Rose,
Yes.
Councilwoman Doctor,
Yes.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coon, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
say yes.
so moved. We move now to resolutions under economic development. Madam Clerk, 7A, please.
A resolution considering short-term vacation rental application number 21 STPR 130 for property located at 1454 Jefferson Street.
Case 2021-04, is the applicant present?
Yes.
All right. Is there anyone here in opposition to this case? Councilman Byrd, we do have the applicant as well as opposition. Would you like to hear the case from is Caleb here today?
Yes. He's right here.
Okay. Your presentation, and then we'll hear from the applicant and the opposition.
Fourteen 54 Jefferson Street, STDR 21-130.
Is it on? There's a switch on the left.
Fourteen 54 Jefferson Street. Here you'll see an overhead of the property in relation to the rest of the neighborhood. Here's the front of the house. You can see it from the front. Up the street, up Jefferson, down Jefferson towards Main. And this is there's a little alley to access the back ends of all the structures. And this is their garage. Surrounding short-term rentals, you can see purple are non-owner occupied issue, green are owner occupied issue. The yellow in the middle is the property under consideration. Blue is under consideration, and the yellow in the middle is the next property. And here's the timeline showing the turn of events from August 4th all the way down to today. They did fail their initial inspection due to the power wasn't on to test GFCI outlets. They needed child safety upstairs for the windows and some additional CO and smoke detectors as well. That brings us to today.
All right, any questions, Councilman Byrd for Caleb at this time?
No, sir.
All right. Hold on one second, Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Chairman. Property fails inspection. We're here today. Has it been re-inspected?
It has not been re-inspected. This is one of those that the applicant is just looking for permission more or less to continue. If they're going to be denied, then there's no reason to make any renovations, upgrades, or to meet any of these requirements. If they are green lighted tonight, then obviously all these have to be taken care of before we can issue. There will have to be a passing inspection prior to issuance of the certificate.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. All right, applicant, if you would come to the podium and you'll be given 5 minutes. Mr. IT, could we have 5 minutes on the clock, please? Go ahead and begin at any time.
Thank you to the council for allowing us to speak here. Last month, we received 12 objections to our short-term rental permit. To our understanding, the gentleman went door to door and asked for signatures to block our permit. These were not organic objections. When you ask residents to sign a paper with their fellow neighbors' signatures, this creates peer pressure since no one wants to be the odd one out. So this could be defined as coercion. That said, we do respect the community's point of view, and we believe their concerns are legitimate. We agree that parties with alcohol consumption are very disruptive, creating a toxic environment where parents are raising young children. Loud music is also unacceptable, and we agree that parties overcrowd parking areas. If I live in this neighborhood, I would definitely have the same concerns. As a small local licensed and state regulated management company, we have significantly higher standards, and we have very solid relationships with the neighbors at our other properties in town. The objection says Airbnb disrupts their ability to raise young children. And I have 2 children myself, ages 4 and 7, so I fully agree with putting family first. They said there's concern about parties having excessive alcohol consumption spilling into the street. We've hosted over 1,200 stays, and we've only had a single alcohol-related party in 2019, after which we immediately created systems to prevent that from happening again. So here are the steps we've taken, which we will do at this property if approved, which are proven since we've had past 1,000 stays with no parties at all. First, we will install 24/7 noise monitoring technology in the home, as well as sensors outside, and we personally respond immediately when decibel levels are triggered above our threshold, which is quite low. This allows us to quickly respond to noise before it becomes an issue. Guests are also much quieter when they know they are being monitored, as we are required to disclose the surveillance. Second, since the incidents mentioned in the objection letter, Airbnb has created a powerful new initiative to prevent house parties. They designed a new algorithm that prevents a risky guest from booking in the first place, based on proven red flags such as single night bookings on weekends, fewer than 3 positive reviews from other hosts, young guests under the age of 25, and reserving a house near where they live. These high-risk guests who disturbed this neighborhood in the past are now unable to book due to these new stringent requirements. In fact, Airbnb says its anti-party safety system has blocked more than 100,000 suspicious bookings since launching in the US last July. Third, we personally vet each guest after they are filtered by the new party detection algorithm. We do not allow guests to have concerning track records or low ratings from other hosts. We tell guests before and after they book that we have a $3,000 penalty for house parties, and we will call the police immediately if they do so. Fourth, we are hyper responsive. We respond immediately to any issue around the clock, and we take our community's happiness very, very seriously. Our guests, clients, and neighbors enjoy the experience we offer. We do not allow guests to book a single night on a Friday or Saturday, which eliminates 99% of party risk. We scare out partygoers with our $3,000 penalty, our zero tolerance policy, and our software requires a government issued ID to book. The community mentions loud music. Again, our decibel monitoring sensors alert us immediately if noise rises above our threshold. These devices are tamper-proof and cannot be disabled. The community says residents are left to clean up trash and vomit left behind. This is essential to parties, which we prevent with the systems above, and we have not had a party during our past 1,000 stays. If there is trash from other causes, our operations team follows a 150-point checklist to make sure the property is beautiful at all times. Finally, we create dozens of jobs in the local community, and our industry creates significant income for local government through local taxes. Many of our guests stay at our units with the intention of moving to Chattanooga and making it their new home, which allows our city to grow, expand, and prosper. Almost all our guests spend their money at local venues, restaurants, and attractions, significantly driving the local economy. Local businesses need foot traffic, and we trust thousands of guests who patronize these businesses. We send them local recommendations, and they have tangibly contributed to your district and to the city at large. We respectfully ask for a mutually beneficial solution that will allow this beautiful community to enjoy peace of mind, while allowing our guests to make magical memories with their own loved ones, and thus allowing us to provide for our families. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? All right. Thanks, sir. The opposition will be granted 5 minutes to speak as well. If anyone in opposition would like to address the council. We'll be given 5 minutes. If there are others, we would ask that you respect their time. If not, if they do not wish to speak, you can take the full 5 minutes. Let's have, there we go. Go ahead.
Okay, so we've all written letters, everyone was peer pressured, all of our letters. And we've already emailed to the councilman, but my letter may be different than everyone else's, but I'm the first house that you come to that has a driveway, which many of our neighbors, as that showed, they do not have driveways. So my letter just said, our home is one of the few in the neighborhood with a driveway, and the first driveway that you come to from the 2 houses with the applications in today. With the current everyday traffic coming down our street, our driveway seems to be the consistent turnaround for all traffic that comes down our street. And now with the 2 new applications, I'm sorry, I did not expect to speak to that. There will also be more increased traffic into the turnaround for my driveway, and it creates damage to my property, and it's a nuisance. Honestly, my pets go crazy every time a car turns around in my driveway. And with the two applications, they are at the very beginning of the street, and then the owner occupied one, they're there about half the time. And there, I think 1 house in between them. So if you have 3 bedrooms in each of the houses, and then the owner occupied, I think he has 3. If they're all driving cars in, so I can't even park down my street when all of them have VRBOs going at the same time on weekend. And now it's, to me, creating, is there going to be a fire truck that's able to come down, especially when it's the very first one, the very first 3 or 4 in there. I think that's all with mine, because I don't have children, so that's not my fight. And I have all the other emails.
Yeah. So I do have children in the neighborhood, and one of the things that we have is we have known entities. We get to see everyone, we know our neighbors, we talk to them on a daily basis. When we've got Airbnbs behind us, we see regularly those people. I don't know who they are. My kids play in that alley. They also play on the street. Now we're gonna have more folks that we don't know who they are. In addition to that, we don't have the parking to support the Airbnbs, especially along Jefferson Avenue. We have street side mailboxes. So whenever there's 4 cars per Airbnb, we don't get our mail. We have to go chase down the mailman, say, wait a second, come back. If you're home, you don't get your mail. The other thing that was not mentioned is the trash. The trash is not just from parties. We have, I think I took a picture of it. We have trash cans sitting on Jefferson Street. There's 4 of them right now because nobody from the Airbnb is responsible for pulling those back in. We also have a recycle can that's overflowing, sitting in the street, that's from an Airbnb right behind us on Madison that we share an alley with. So these are not guesstimates as to what's going to happen. We deal with these issues already, and it will be exacerbated with the additional Airbnbs on Jefferson. Thank you.
Anyone else in opposition would like to speak?
cul-de-sac adjacent, very end.
Could you give us your name, please?
Lisa Harris.
Okay, thank you.
Justin Whitmire.
And I'm Jennifer Wright.
Thank you.
I live in a cul-de-sac in Jefferson. It's one way in, one way out. And when people don't know, they're blocking driveways that access 8 or 9 houses. And I notice people park and they walk up the street to other houses. And, you know, it's not people that live there because we know the driveway. That's the only way in to 9 garages. And people block that and you can't get to your garage. Also, I was wondering if the garbage can, they just sit out there. There was a police chase a couple weeks ago down our one-way street and they nailed some of the garbage cans because they were sitting in the middle of the road because nobody pulls them back in. They're just left out there once, I guess the people leave the Airbnbs or the rentals and nobody pulls them back in. So that's another thing. So.
We have about 29, 26, stop the clock there just a minute. Is there anyone else in opposition that would like to speak to this case? Okay. Councilman Byrd?
It's
It's not. Thank you. Now,
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair. Just due to the overwhelming response that I've got from the community and the people that live there, definitely understand all the visions that the Airbnb managers and people that own it wanted to take. But this community definitely is in need of some work, and especially due to traffic. I've had some issues down there myself, and so with that, and them getting that HOA in order as well. With that, I move to deny.
all right, we have a motion on the floor to deny with a proper second. Councilman Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we vote, I just want to make a quick comment. Caleb, can you pull the map back up, please? So many, many years ago, I lived at 1614 Jefferson. I also lived at 1707 Jefferson. One of the first people to come in and try to restart that area, and I'm very proud of that area. It's become, my only thing I would like to say is in looking at that map, keep going, Caleb, I'm going to the number of units in the nearby area. There we go. When I start to see these maps, I start to see a saturation, and it concerns me because I feel like we're losing our neighborhoods. These are homes that were built and they're now businesses, and we have housing crisis in our city. We talk a lot about it at Planning Commission, and I just think at some point we're going to have a serious talk about the number of these businesses located that are taking homes away from people in our city, and I think disassembling neighborhoods. And I hear it every time someone comes and says their concerns, shares their concerns with us. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we vote? We do have a motion on the floor to deny with a proper second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Kumar, Councilman Byrd, Councilman Godwin, Councilwoman Byrd, yes. Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Whitmire,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson.
Yes. Motion to deny carries. Moving now to 7B, please.
The resolution considering short-term vacation rental application number 21 SPR 150 for property located at 1450 Jefferson Street.
Case 2021-05. Is the applicant present? Thank you. Is there any opposition present? Okay. You want to have Caleb come up and give us a presentation, Councilman Byrd, or? Well, I think in order to give due process to the applicant. Caleb, just give us a briefing and then we'll hear from that.
This is the neighbor of the previous case. Essentially, the presentation is going to show the same streets, the same access, a little different is they've got a garage a little further back. They too failed the initial inspection due to window fall protection and additional CO detectors required both upstairs and downstairs. And again, that will obviously need to be re-inspected in order to issue the certificate, should you allow it to proceed that.
Thank you, sir. All right, with the applicants come forward, you will have 5 minutes. If you would give us your names, please. And Mr. IT, we have 5 minutes.
Hi, my name is Kirby Yost. I'm an attorney at Campbell Fire and Stokel. I represent the property owner, Selena Smith, who's an employee for the property owner. I'm just going to provide a brief summary and then make a different request. But this property, the owner of this property is a local business owner who operates in the south side. And the intent behind purchasing this house was they've got a workforce of employees, and about 50% or more of those do not live or work locally and only have to be in the downtown office sporadically. And the intent was to provide a place for those people to stay when they're working in town. So you can't do that without a short-term vacation rental certificate. In light of the denial next door, I think that it would make sense, however, to shift our request and instead ask for a deferral so that we may perhaps talk with the city about options, because the house was purchased specifically for that purpose. And I'm not sure the best way to achieve that purpose if this gets denied, because as you know, we should not reapply for 12 months and we still have no solution for our employees.
Councilman Byrd, do you have any questions at this time for the applicant? Okay, let us hear from the opposition and then we'll let Councilman Byrd have the floor. Any motion?
And also, we're available to provide additional detail if the motion is not on the deferral, but on the merits. But I don't want to waste anyone's time before we get to that point.
Okay. All right, does any of the opposition wish to speak to this case at this time?
It would be the same thing.
If
Yeah,
you-
I would.
We'll have you on record. Give us your name.
Jennifer, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it would be the same thing. We would like to keep our neighborhood just family friendly and just not be a business neighborhood. We would like to keep it for a community, our community, and a community that other people move into and raise their kids. And we're all friends. We all vacation together. We all have, go out every weekend, every Friday. You can find us at our local business slicks down the road. I mean, that's the community that we are. And I don't think that, just having somebody come in every now and again is what we want in our neighborhood. I think, again, we like to see familiar faces and go down the street for our own cup of sugar. So, that's it.
Thank you. I'll still have a little bit of time. Any other opposition that would like to speak? Okay, Councilman Byrd, I am not seeing any other opposition that would like to speak at this time. You want to hit your button, please?
Chair, okay. Once again, the community speaks out very strongly about this. Definitely no disregard to you guys. I understand what you're trying to do. Just unfortunately, this community, it wasn't, I think, enough interaction even also to explain to them, because it is not a new neighborhood, but they're growing. Like I said, they are definitely establishing the HOA. The parking over there is horrendous. We've had several issues with it. And I just think probably if a little more homework was done in the beginning to talk with them and explain also what you're trying to do with the employee, maybe we could have got to a different stance. But at this time, with the numerous of emails and letters I received from this community, I have to move to deny.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to deny with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments from this body before we? Okay, I'm sorry, we have a motion on the floor and now this body will decide debate among itself on the motion on the floor. All right, council, are there any questions or comments before we vote? We do have a motion on the floor to deny with a proper second. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Donovan. Yes. Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
8 yes.
motion to deny does carry. Moving now to 7C and D, Madam Clerk, if you would you take both of those together and no objection from the council?
Item C, a resolution authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into amendment number 1 to lease and a second agreement to exercise option to renew with Forgotten Child Fund Inc. and substantial reforms attached for lease of office space at 1715 East Main Street, identified as tax parcel number 156BB011 for the consideration of $1 for the additional term of 3 months through January 31, 2022. Item D, a resolution to allow the administrator for the Department of Economic Development to apply for and award acceptance the opportunity to file an initiative plan grant from the Tennessee Department of Human Services for amount not to exceed $500,000 and to apply for and if awarded, accept the Tennessee Opportunity Pilot Initiative Implementation Grant from the Tennessee Department of Human Services for an amount not to exceed $25 million.
Councilman Byrd,
Move to approve.
we have a motion on the floor to approve items 7C and D with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Donovan, Councilwoman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
8 yes.
so moved. Moving now down to Parks and Public Works, Madam Clerk, if there are no objections from the council, let's take items 7E and F together.
Item E, a resolution authorizing the administrative for the Department of Public Works to approve change order number 6 final for CH2M Engineers Inc. Relative to contract number W15002101 Friar Springs, South Chippewa Creek, 5 infrastructure rehabilitation for an increased amount of $28,050.23 for revised contract amount of $1,201,255.77. Authorizing the renewal of contract number E20011401, the on-call lane contract for resident project representative for RPR services with on ASA Engineering Consulting, E2 Forest Design Solutions, 3 Civic Engineering and Information Technology, Inc., 4 CGI Engineering, Inc., 5 D Marks and Partners LLC, 6 Franklin Associates Architects, Inc., 7 Ravens Associates, Inc., 8 SNE Inc., 9 Southern Environmental Technologies, Inc., 10 Thompson Engineering, 11 Low Public, Inc., and 12 Woods Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, Inc., in the services categories as applied. Review 2 of the 5-year term with these 12 firms for $2 million total annual fees for all departments.
Councilwoman Byrd. We have a motion on the floor to approve items 7E and F with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments from the council before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Byrd, Councilwoman Donovan, Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
8 yes.
motion to approve carries. Council now moving to purchases. Chief, I haven't seen Julia here tonight. Are you taking the purchases?
Yes, sir. Dr. Lee.
Let me know if you need some help.
All right. Sorry. First item is with the Waste Resources Division, Public Works. This is a new blanket contract for document digitization services. This will be for a 4-year contract, not to exceed $85,000 per year. 4 bids were requested and 3 were returned. The award will go to Data Management International as the best bid meeting specifications for the city of Chattanooga. The second item is for the Chattanooga Fire Department. This is a new blanket contract for firefighters' protective clothing. This will be a 4-year contract not to exceed $1,014,761 per year. 4 bids were requested and 2 were returned. The award will go to North American Fire Equipment Company as the best bid meeting specifications for the city of Chattanooga.
Council, what's your pleasure?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve tonight's purchases with a proper second. Questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Douglas.
Yes.
Councilwoman Burns.
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes.
and yes.
Motion to approve tonight's purchases does carry. Chief?
We also have 3 RFP formats recommended for approval. We're requesting approval to issue these RFPs, not approve the award of any contracts at this time. The first one is for transportation for RFP grant writing services for federal transportation discretionary grants. These are complicated grant applications, and we think it's the best interest of the city to have additional capacity for grant writing around these grants. And RFP would be the best way to seek this capacity. The second item is for smart cities under IT for the Advanced Transportation Management System. This is a federally funded project awarded initially in 2015, and the RFP is to get customized software. We're not looking for anything off the shelf, and it has to be very specific to the way the ITS infrastructure and other software applications work together. So we're looking to do an RFP so that we can get some specific responses around customization, not necessarily just based on price. And then the third item is for the Office of the City Attorney, and it's an RFP for insurance brokerage services, which should not be based on price alone, but also qualifications of the brokerage firm. Therefore, an RFP would be the appropriate way to solicit these services.
All right, council, you have heard the request this afternoon for these RFPs. What's your pleasure, Councilman Ledford?
Move to approve 3 RFPs.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the RFPs with a proper second. Are there any questions or comments before we vote? Roll call, please.
Councilman Ledford,
Yes.
Councilman Hester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Burns, yes. Councilwoman Douglas, Councilman Byrd,
Yes.
Councilwoman Coonrod, Vice Chairman Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Henderson,
Yes,
and yes.
motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Moving now to committee reports. Councilman Ledford,
A report, Chairman.
Councilman Hester,
No report.
Councilwoman Burrs,
No report.
Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier today, we did have a legislative committee meeting, and we discussed an ordinance that was submitted by Councilwoman Coonrod regarding the salary of the court judge, and we'll be looking for some additional feedback over the next few weeks.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Dotley. Councilman Byrd.
No report.
Councilwoman Coonrod. Thank you. That brings us now to other business, and I believe we do have a settlement that needs to be announced by our city attorney this afternoon.
We did enter into a settlement agreement in the case of Rachel Lovingood and husband Jeffrey Lovingood versus Mark Pollard, officer, Chattanooga Police Department in the city of Chattanooga. That was a previously authorized settlement amount of $250,000.
Okay. That takes us through all agenda items this afternoon and brings us to the time where we recognize persons wishing to address the city council. By a show of hands, is there anybody that is present with us here this afternoon that would like to address the council? All right, I see a couple of hands. If you could go ahead and make your way to the podium. I want to ask the city attorney if she would read rules to address the council, and it's my understanding from the vice chair that we have no one registered this afternoon on our Zoom platform that would like to address us tonight. Madam Attorney?
All right, each speaker wishing to address the council shall be recognized only at the microphone provided by the chair here. The speaker may address the council on matters within the legislative and quasi judicial authority of the council, and the time will be limited to 3 minutes.
Mr. IT, would you give us 3 minutes on the clock? And when you begin to address us, just give us your name. Thank you.
Good evening, council. My name is Sean Dinks, reside in District 8. We have seen a dramatic rise in violence and sadistic crime throughout our city and county in past weeks. There have been many discussions on all levels of government, so I come today to this body to help give our city government a start to curbing crime in our communities and help increase the quality of life of those who face systematic challenges embedded in our society. As a scholar in criminology, we study various cities across our country and the reasons why individuals offend society. In the social control theory, we study why individuals do not offend society. Social control theory proposes that people, relationships, commitments, values, norms, beliefs encourage them not to break the law. Thus, if moral codes are internalized and individuals are tied into what they have a stake in their wider community, they will voluntarily let their commitments deviate from their acts. The theory seeks to understand how it is possible to reduce the likelihood of criminality developing in individuals. It does not consider, nevertheless, the motivational issues, simply stating that human beings may choose to engage in a wide range of activities unless they range in the limited by socialization and social learning process. The criminologist Jake Gibbs in 1989 redefined the social control theory and applied it to develop control theory of homicide. Gibbs argues that homicide can describe either a control as resulting from a control failure, and proposes that homicide rate is the function not just of sheer volume of disputes, but also the frequency of the recourse of a third party, or in this case, our society. Within this short time, I've given this body two theories that, if applied to work in tandem with the social policy of this city government, it is guaranteed to reduce the violent crime rates, improve the quality of life for those in historically disadvantaged areas, and they will begin to thrive and flourish. We can finally say that we are genuinely one Chattanooga. We have created stronger families and stronger communities, moving Chattanooga truly forward. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
Hello, my name is Samantha Rajakowski. I don't live in Chattanooga, I live in East Ridge, but I want to tell you a story of where I come from. I lived in Memphis all my life. And just like the city council, it used to be where, you leave your doors unlocked, and I used to have a habit of leaving my purse in the car, and I wake up in the morning, so I wouldn't forget it. But then, just like your city council, our city council decided to cut the police department. That was in 2014. We didn't think anything of it because, crime was growing, but we thought we could handle it. Then that summer, we had the summer of blood. And I want you to hear about this. We were waking up finding bodies in the yard. People who were supposed to be buried in a grave. Somebody was murdered, and then they were put in there. They had to get a warrant to dig up that person so they could get the body out. We lived like that. It got worse. Started having raids. Companies left. It just became a violent city. And I'm sure all of you are aware of that. And the reason why I'm here is because it's time for community policing. And I can't sit back because I live in East Ridge and I can pretend like it never exists because I stay in an area where right now, believe it or not, my enemy is a raccoon named Randy. But I have to be realized because that overflow that's here gonna go into East Ridge, Ooltewah, Soddy Daisy, and it may be one of your family members, one of your friends that are murdered. See, because in Memphis, it was a businessman that was murdered. He was taking his wife out to eat, and he was in downtown and he got shot and killed. But the point is that I'm making is that right now, We need to come together, black and white. We need to come together as a unit and find out how we can do this. I've been in Chattanooga for 5 years, and I'm gonna be honest, I love it. I love to be able to open up my windows, sit on my porch, things that I couldn't do too much in Memphis, but I can do it here. And I'm asking you guys, come together. Let's do something. Let's create something. If it didn't work, find out what didn't make it work and make it work again. But I hope that when you hear this story, that when you go out, you listen to what I'm saying, because in 2 years, I promise you, just like I saw it in Memphis, it's gonna be here. It's gonna come here. It's already here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, you got 3 minutes?
Thank you, Council. Monty Bell, the homeless journalist at Gray Hair Fox. Now the mayor of the 727th East 11th Street encampment, that's what they call it. Crime, violence, black on black crime, enforced by whites, all of that. This is the first time I've come to the city council where I've almost felt outclassed by the two that spoke before me. Truth, nothing but truth. I'm looking for a response tonight. What happened to the $400,000 that was allocated for the homeless that never reached us? Right down the street. Do I ask that of District 8 or do I ask that of the entire council representatives? I've got 3 minutes. I need an answer. Is there an officer on the CPD force that's going to arrest this Bridget Talent and this Timothy Dale that's destroying my encampment? I can assure you, citizen policing already started. Started with me yesterday morning at 5 o'clock, and it's going to continue. You won't talk to me. You can talk to the paramedics, because I asked you kindly, would you move this thuggish element out of my campsite? And what I received is this. To the city attorney. It was August of 2009 when District Public Defender Ardina Jacob asked me to come together with you. We're talking to Attorney Jerry Summers to fight against crime, injustice, and corruption among at least 2 General Sessions Court judges. That puts it in the purview of the city. And at least the 2 state agencies and at least 2 other city agencies accused of judge hopping. It continues. Just came from the library. The attorney that stole my case and presented it as if it was his was even charged with judge hopping. You all have tried to make Monty Bell, the gray-haired fox, the homeless journalist, a criminal with your antics. That's why the judge shopping came to the forefront in the first place, because we had judges and attorneys coming up with strategies and techniques to arrest the poorest of the poor. And you sit there like this. Silent isn't golden all the time. Sometimes it's trash. And I thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that's here with us this afternoon that would like to address the council at this time? Council, I am not seeing any other hands. What is your pleasure?